Hello, inmates, and welcome back to the Cellblock Scorch. It's me, Octo, and I will be doing week 225B this week. The prompt for this week was Meet Me at the Interstate Oasis, given by Cricket. This piece is actually a part of a broader universe that I'm working on very, very slowly. I will go over it after the fact, just because I don't know what I want to tell you. That's why. I'll figure it out. I hope you like it. The title is Oasis. I'm very imaginative. Meet me at the Interstate Oasis, Dana had said, and we'll figure things out. There were several problems with that. Primarily, Charlie was a little bit stuck, locked inside his room by his own grandmother, and wasn't going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Of slightly less import, but equally problematic, was that the Citadel was located on a disgustingly large iceberg and therefore didn't have oases or interstates to speak of. So even if he did manage to weasel his way out of here, he wouldn't know where to go to meet up with his sister. A third, more gut-churning problem he wasn't thinking about was that Dana might have been the one to tip off his grandma about the whole fleeing the Citadel thing, and that he'd be walking directly into a trap if he met up with her like she wanted. So, that was fun. Nothing like a little political intrigue between family members to get the blood pumping. Charlie scowled mightily at the sealed door from his perch on the edge of his bed. He was certain he could unlock it, but he was just as certain that his grandma had at least 3 of her mooks standing guard out there. He was a lover, not a fighter, and his grandma knew it. No door could hold Charlie when he didn't want to be. But armed guards certainly could. He passed the time by pondering whatever secret message Dana had been trying to impart in the 5 seconds between the Charlie was too cowardly to torture and murder icy prisoners debacle and Charlie being incarcerated in his room. It was a lot better than thinking about whatever Grams was gonna do when she finally deigned to visit. She'd known about the whole plan. Charlie had spent well over a year crafting it to perfection, scheming the best way to disappear into the wider cosmos with Dana and whoever else wanted to get out of Dodge. And she'd crushed his every aspiration like they were miserable clumps of dirt she found while tilling her garden. Interstate Oasis, he reminded himself. Maybe it just meant the center of the Citadel? The Citadel was laid out like a spiral, a deep pit in the very center being occupied by an icy fountain, lit up all through the winter with multicolored lights. Water was heated enough to jet into the air, then was immediately frozen in the subarctic temperatures and came tinkling back down. Sometimes it even sounded sort of like a song, if you closed your eyes and listened hard enough. It was pretty, but it wasn't an oasis. Not to mention, it wasn't anywhere near something that could be described as an interstate. The Citadel was enormous, but most travel was conducted by jump pad if you needed to get from building to building without going down into the rest of the complex. Anyone stupid enough to travel around outside was just asking for quick onset frostbite, no matter how nice their vehicle was. Not to mention the sliding. It was perfectly warm inside any building on the surface, and inside the bowels of the iceberg itself, but part of the secret ice island thing was having no noticeable infrastructure from an aerial view. Made it hard to create usable roads. It also, much to Charlie's eternal chagrin, made it difficult to leave the Citadel without anybody noticing, since you basically had 4 steel docking bays to choose from, and they were all heavily monitored. The only people who had the ability to come and go as they pleased were Grams, his mom, any of his 7 siblings who weren't himself or Dana, and that really should have tipped him off that something strange was happening, but oh well. And consultant specialists like Rogian, who needed to be able to leave at all hours without so much as a buy your leave. Rogian really was a nice guy. It was a shame about the whole cold-blooded assassin thing. If he survived the next 48 hours, he'd need to break off things with him. He was fun to hang around, a good friend if you weren't on his Grams hit list. They just weren't, morally compatible. Just the other day, he'd managed to get Rogian to show him his little drifter, the freeway haven, and... Hold up. Charlie squinted in thought, then facepalmed so hard his 3+ guards could probably hear it through the steel door. Freeway Haven, interstate Oasis. That wasn't even hard. He'd been sitting here for 3 hours, agonizing over this, and he just needed to crack open a thesaurus. So, Dana wanted him to get to Rosian's ship. Did that mean Rosian was in on their breakout? Probably not. Rosian was very invested in being alive and unskinned, and those would both be difficult states of being to maintain if he got involved. However, Charlie definitely had accidentally memorized the Freeway Haven's access codes during their little jaunt. Did Dana know? Then there was the matter of their prisoner. Charlie really didn't want to leave the poor guy down in the dungeon, and Dana likely agreed. So they'd have to get him out of this room, get the IC operative out of the dungeon, probably from under Graham's very nose, and make it to Docking Bay 3, where Rosian always parked his drifter, and steal it. All without getting caught by literally anyone in the Citadel. Easy. Except for, the armed guards bit. They were really cramping his style. If he were a bit smaller, he could have gone through the vents. But they were tragically child-sized, and he hadn't been able to wriggle into them since he was 13. He ruminated on the problem, scanning the room for any sort of weapon he could use that wasn't the 3-inch knife tucked into his boot. If he were a Genevieve, he'd have at least 3 strikers tucked away in the upholstery, but he'd always been more of a knife guy himself. Unfortunately, trying to knife fight his way through people armed with strikers was just stupid, and a good way to be riddled with holes. Even if he had had a striker on hand, however, the idea of using one turned his stomach. He saw one blow a hole clean through the IC agent's kneecap, and nearly experienced the undoubtedly unpleasant sensation himself when he'd objected. Maybe if he just asked really politely. A cacophony just outside his door snapped Charlie back to attention, and he was on his feet and picking the lock before he had time to think. Dana was out there. He knew it, the way he could taste the way his Graham's disappointment curdled the air around him, and the IC agent's agony had scraped across his eardrums. He had the door open in record time, which gave him a perfect view of Dana executing a beautiful high kick, breaking Mook No. 3's nose and bouncing her skull off the metal wall like a soccer ball. Charlie blinked owlishly down at the carnage wrought by his sister. There had, indeed, been 3 Mooks, but they were no longer a problem. Or conscious. That one might not have been breathing. Wow, he said, for lack of anything else to add. I'm sensing some pent-up aggression. Instead of answering, she swept forward and gathered him into a bone-crushing hug. You're still here. I thought I was going to be too late. Charlie tried to pat her comfortingly on the back, but he was seeing stars, and his ribcage was about to collapse. Dana had always been a little unclear about appropriate hug pressures. Come on, we've got to get you out of here. The agent, he wheezed as she released him and began hustling him down the hall. She cut him off with a sharp hand gesture. Already taken care of. You know where to go? Yeah, I got it. Charlie peered suspiciously at her. You're coming, right? Dana smiled. It was not a comforting smile. You're coming, right? He repeated, frowning sternly at her. She kept smiling that smile. It looked regretful and fond all at once, and Charlie did not like it at all. I'll see you at the interstate Oasis, just like I said. Now go, quickly. Dana gave him a firm shove, propelling him toward Docking Bay 3, then began heading off in the dungeon's direction. He paused, silently warring with himself, then decided to listen to his sister. She said she'd see him there, he comforted himself, as he ghosted down the hallways. He'd just have to trust her. 20 minutes later, spiraling recklessly through Arctic air in Rosian's drifter, stuck in a cockpit built for one with an IC agent slowly bleeding out on the floor next to him, and no sister to speak of. Charlie admitted that he'd been kidding himself. Nobody smiled like that who wasn't trying to say goodbye.
Hey, it's Cricket here again for Judge Comments. I got 2 pieces this week. One was from Bones, and it was so funny. But this one from Octo just, knocked me over. The world building was so interesting. I'm so fascinated by the sibling dynamic between these 2 characters. And then on this one in particular, the last line really just, hit me so hard. Yeah, that I truly just, it was just really enjoyable to read. I had a lot of questions. There was a lot going on. It was really cool. And then the last line was just, oh, so powerful. That's everything. It was such a good piece this week. I hope y'all enjoyed.
Well, I hoped you enjoyed that. It's a little more dramatic than my usual fare, you could say. That's because it's part of an actual extended universe that I'm working on called, in the Scorch Patreon, it's tagged the IC, which stands for the Intergalactic Coalition. It's my Star Trek inspired universe, my sci fi child. You know how it goes. And the first Scorch I ever recorded was actually in the IC. It was point of view, the medical officer of the ship that Charlie, the person that we're focusing on in this one, ends up on way to the future from this Scorch. Charlie is the scrunkly little, human being who just eats stuff all the time. A thing you don't get to appreciate because you're listening to me speak and I can't enunciate spellings is that Charlie in this particular Scorch is spelled with a Y. And in the other Scorch, about the dinner party, it's spelled with an IE. This is because Charlie is on the run from the mob. His grandma is in charge of the intergalactic mob, and he, through an incredible amount of self-delusion and also just thinking the best of people, didn't notice until he was like 18. Poor guy. He'd been aiding and abetting so many crimes. He didn't think about it. He was just in charge of, contacting people. He was just buddies with pirates. Who doesn't do a little smuggling? Who doesn't do a little tax evasion? That's not really a crime. Come on now. And then he realized that they were doing things like assassinations and murdering and trafficking things. And he's not on with that at all. So he decided that he was going to jet. And he was going to take his sister Dana with him because Dana is the only other sibling amongst, there are, I believe, 9 of them. They are a big family. A big, fat mob family. That wasn't actually down with the stuff that was happening. As you can see in this Scorch, their escape attempt went very poorly for Dana. She bailed him out because he was going to be freaking toast, and she loves him dearly. But this is all if and when I actually get around to writing, like a book or something about this. This is all super secret backstory, because Charlie would literally rather die than talk about this to anybody. He has faked his death several times since the end of this fic in order to avoid talking about it and avoid, being found by his very angry grandmother mob boss, who is still looking for him, by the way. So that's the short and the long of what's going on there. It's very exciting. Since this is my pseudo sci-fi universe, you get to listen to me talk about the technology, because I'm a big fat nerd. So, in this fic, I first talked about jump pads. And I'm going to talk about it in, conjunction with Star Trek because I'm lazy, but essentially, a jump pad is a lame version of a transporter. Jump pads connect to each other, but you can't, project somebody out into any point of space with a jump pad. There needs to be another one installed on the other side. You jump from pad to pad, right? Isn't that a great name? So, they're useful, but not as exciting as transporters. They're also less likely to mince you into tiny particles and scatter you across the cosmos, so I think it's a win. The other piece of technology I mentioned here are strikers, which sound essentially like guns, the way I describe them, and they are. But a striker doesn't use normal ammunition like bullets. It just uses compressed air, but when I say compressed air, I mean the air is pretty much solid. That thing hits you, you are going to die. It's like if you had an air cannon, but it was really tiny, and also shot air out of it at supersonic speeds. You can imagine the damage it would do. Plus sides of strikers is you don't run out of ammo, you just run out of energy. You can keep shooting until your little gun runs out of, chutzpah, essentially. And also, it doesn't leave any, traces, which means it's really great for, a mob boss to have a whole bunch of them on hand, because how are you gonna prove that it was my striker that striked somebody, okay? They just got a hole in them. There's no ballistics for that. But yeah, this is a nice sneak peek into the super secret backstory of Charlie, the guy who does not want people to know anything about him ever. treasure it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I could say about this here. If ever you have any questions about anything that I've said, feel free to drop me a line. I'd love to talk about it. I think it's fun. There's one last thing. So, since I'm just giving this to you in tidbits, I'll just tell you all of Charlie's secrets up front for fun. Charlie is an empath. Except that he has he's crossed with an empathic species, but he don't have the, neural pathways to properly deal with it because he's part human and part this other thing that I can't remember the name of right now. You'd think I remember it because it's my thing. It starts with a W. But when he experiences other people's emotions, instead of, being, oh, that is sadness, like a Betazoid or something, he, man's got synesthesia. He is feeling feelings, like smells, like he sees things, he hears things, he tastes things. It's a weird experience for him. He doesn't like to talk about it because he's trying to convince everyone around him that he is a normal human being without any extrasensory powers whatsoever. He's bad at doing that, by the way. But yeah, so I'm sure that this has convinced you that Charlie is a sad, angsty boy, but in reality, by the time the actual, story starts, he's pretty much over all of it. He's just trying to live his life. He don't want to talk about it. And if he had his way, he just would be able to live his life in peace. He's just a little guy, Everyone wants him to tell them things, but he shan't. And I think that is pretty much it for things that I have touched upon very obliquely in this story. So the prompt for next week is, with a name that pretentious, you'd think they'd be a little more impressive. And Styx won that week. I'm excited to read it again, because I'll admit that I can't remember what it was about, because that was a long time ago, and I have a pea brain when it comes to, details. I'll have you know that I was convinced that my Scorch for this week was actually the ones that Bones wrote this week, and I was really confused when I popped open my my document and I started reading this. It was not familiar to me at all. That's really on me. It just whoosh. But yes, Styx did that, and I'm excited for y'all to listen to it. I'm sure it's great, because Styx is a great writer. I don't think I have any relevant questions to respond to. If I forgot your relevant question, please just, make another comment. It'll eventually get to me. Always a reminder about the Patreon. Please go on there. Please enjoy the hard work that Cricket puts into transcribing these so that if we mumble too much, you can, understand them. And please enjoy the other Scorches that are on there. The Embers are all really great. And you just have to subscribe to the first tier in order to read them all to your heart's content. I don't have anything personal to hype currently, but as soon as I do, you'll probably be, the third to know. That's it for me. I hope your weekend is great, and keep that fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. We can be reached at thestellacore@gmail.com, through comments on your podcast platform of choice, our Instagram, Stella_core, and at our YouTube, also called Stellacore. Feel free to check out our other productions on our YouTube channel, or our cosplays on Instagram. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon, linked in the show notes. There, you can access the winning Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to all of the Scorch submissions.